So today we're diving into something totally unconventional, the political platform of Arnab Khan. He's an independent candidate for the Jamalpur 2 constituency. Now, if you've been following politics lately, you know that finding any kind of strategy for true national unity, well, it's incredibly tough in such a polarized environment. But Khan's approach, it's definitely not your standard playbook. We're going to break down exactly how he plans to achieve this unity and why his totally wild mix of serious policy and outright satire might actually be a fascinating blueprint for catching the public's eye. Here's the agenda for today. We'll look at 4 key areas. Number 1, bridging the political divide. 2, his focus on youth, sports, and values. 3, a proposed new foreign policy. And finally, number 4, the roaring tiger, where things get, well, pretty interesting. All right, kicking things off with section 1. Bridging the political divide, a call for legal process and inclusion. So Khan's core argument here is that the country absolutely has to prioritize the rule of law over a culture of revenge. To see how he applies this, let's look at his timeline for former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. See, the original expectation was that she might face processes around December 2026, but Khan actually urged her to return earlier, by September 2026, to face those established legal processes head-on. His point is that respecting the law actually builds public trust. And here's where it gets really specific. He pointed to September 28th as a highly symbolic date. Why? Because it's the exact shared birthday of his uncle, leftist leader Comrade Manjurul Ahsan Khan, Sheikh Hasina herself, and even the legendary singer Lata Mangeshkar. He literally uses these unique historical overlaps to try and find common ground. And you can really see how he actively tries to bridge these deep historical divides. Normally politicians stick strictly to praising their own party's icons, right? But Khan openly praises traditionally opposed figures right alongside each other. He points to Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Shahid Zia Rahman, Maulana Bashani, Tajuddin Ahmed, and Comrade Moni Singh, all as shared inspirations for the nation. He even specifically acknowledges the contributions and personal cordiality of former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia. Basically, he's demonstrating absolute political inclusivity. He's asking the public to just respect all the diverse architects of the nation's history, regardless of party lines. To really anchor this vision, he uses some pretty vivid metaphors. He argues that politics shouldn't be hostile. Instead, it should be as friendly as a sports match and as harmonious as religious festivals, like Eid, Puja, or Christmas. He has this famous line where he says, just as we meticulously clean our homes and courtyards, it's our direct responsibility to keep the country and its politics clean too. The ultimate goal, a truly humane, liberal, and non-communal state. Moving right along to section 2, youth, sports, and values, building a smart Bangladesh. For Khan, this idea of national unity isn't just a top-down thing for politicians. It starts right at the grassroots level with the youth. Actually, as the managing director of Ashchorjo Innovations, he puts a massive emphasis on physical activity. He honestly believes there is absolutely no alternative to sports, like the local football matches his organization supports, when it comes to keeping kids unified and completely drug-free. For him, that raw enthusiasm you see on a sports field, that's the direct antidote to the politics of division. It's a clear 4-step path. Organize the matches, keep the youth healthy, build their discipline, and eventually, that societal division just naturally fades away. But here's the catch. He says physical discipline has to go hand in hand with cultural grounding. He advocates really heavily for a revival of what he calls Asian cultural values. What does that actually mean? Well, getting back to the basics, things like respecting your elders, showing affection to the younger generation, and keeping a deep sense of familial empathy. He leads by example here by frequently honoring his own roots, paying deep respect to the memory of his grandmother, Badruna Sakhanam. His argument is that without these core fundamental human values, you simply cannot build an inclusive state. Okay, section 3, a new foreign policy, the lifelong friendship treaty. So how does he take this intense focus on unity and mutual respect to the international stage? Well, Khan introduces a highly specific foreign policy proposal regarding Bangladesh's immediate neighbor, India. He calls it the Amaran Maitri Chukti, which translates to the Lifelong Friendship Treaty. And this isn't just your standard diplomatic jargon. We're talking about a proposed long-term cooperation framework aimed squarely at securing regional peace. The absolute foundation of this proposed treaty is strict equality. He is totally adamant that bilateral relations cannot be subservient in any way. The relationship has to be built on equal status, mutual respect, and absolute trust. The core tenets here, especially strict respect for sovereignty and really deep cooperation during crises, are what he views as the non-negotiable shared commitments needed to actually ensure long-term regional development. And now for our final part, Section 4, the roaring tiger, symbolism and satire. Now we get to what is probably the most eccentric and honestly fascinating part of his campaign. It's his personal brand identity, his fierce fight for a specific election symbol, and his use of some pretty bizarre, colorful satire. Now, in Bangladeshi elections, candidate symbols are incredibly important for voter recognition. Khan desperately wanted the tiger symbol. He claimed it was actually already on postal ballots and election commission sample posters. He even went as far as filing a high court writ petition in late January 2026 to secure it, arguing he was the only independent candidate in his seat. But despite all that, the returning officer allocated him the horse symbol instead, which Khan claimed was a massive violation of his rights and personal dignity. Well, this whole symbol dispute fueled some highly colorful English satire from Khan. Dismissing standard political talk, which he jokingly called stories of jackfruits and durians, he instead ordered, quote, a sizzling plate of hot chili tiger meat with extra onions, señorita. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. He went on to recommend pairing it with fine red wine and half-boiled green veggies before suddenly drawing a totally bizarre parallel. He declared, we will make Bangladesh great, exactly the way Trump planned for America. He assured everyone that the tiger will be roaring everywhere very soon. It is an incredibly unconventional way to command media attention, basically using shock value satire to slice right through the traditional political noise. But then he sharply contrasts all this wild English satire by signing off his formal statements with a rapid-fire string of deeply traditional and historically opposed political slogans. Get this, he uses Joy Bangla, which is historically associated with the Awami League, immediately followed by Bangladesh Zindabad, which is traditionally associated with the BNP, and then he caps the whole thing off with Pakistan Razakar Murdabad, an anti-collaborator slogan. Using these back-to-back is incredibly paradoxical in traditional politics, but it somehow perfectly cements his unique brand of forceful, all-encompassing inclusivity. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and it leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder. We've seen his push for serious legal processes, his intense dedication to youth sports, his bold foreign policy ideas, and of course those wildly satirical tiger analogies. So, in a deeply divided and polarized landscape, could an unconventional architect wielding both serious legal proposals and wild satire actually hold the blueprint for true national unity? Take a look at all the diverse strategies we've unpacked today and decide for yourself what the future of political campaigning might actually look like. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep learning.